When people bring up the question of God's existence, it's usually framed as the most important question of all. Is there some higher being out there guiding everything? For some, the answer feels obvious. For others, the question is still open. But when you look closer, the evidence doesn't support the claim at all. What follows are 10 powerful reasons that point toward the same conclusion. The idea of God doesn't hold up under scrutiny. The first reason is the problem of evidence. If a God truly existed and wanted people to know him, you'd expect there to be clear, consistent, and undeniable proof. Instead, what we see is silence. The evidence for God is no stronger than the evidence for Zeus, Thor, or any other figure people once worshipped. Believers often say you just need faith, but that's not evidence. It's a way of filling the gap when evidence is missing. If God wanted humanity to follow him, why hide behind ambiguity and confusion? Why make himself so invisible that people must argue endlessly about whether he exists in the first place? That silence speaks volumes. Second, we can look at the contradictions in religious texts. These texts are claimed to be divinely inspired, yet they often contain errors, contradictions, and cultural biases that reflect the time and place they were written. For example, different parts of the Bible disagree on who saw Jesus' resurrection first, or how Judas died. The Quran contains verses that contradict each other on topics like free will and predestination. These aren't the hallmarks of a perfect being communicating with humanity. They look exactly like what we'd expect if fallible humans wrote them. The third reason is the problem of suffering. If God is all-loving and all-powerful, why does so much senseless suffering exist? Not just human evil like war or cruelty, but natural disasters, childhood cancers, and parasites that blind millions. People often say suffering is a test, or that it builds character, but that doesn't explain the sheer scale and randomness of it. No parent would ever torture their child to build character, yet we're supposed to believe a loving deity does this daily on a global scale? The amount of suffering in the world makes far more sense if no God is in control at all. A fourth reason is the success of science in explaining what religion once claimed. Lightning was once thought to be the weapon of gods. Now we know it's atmospheric electricity. Diseases were once thought to be punishments from spirits. Now we understand germs. Every century, science explains more and more of what used to be labeled divine mystery, and never the other way around. Not once has a supernatural explanation turned out to be correct once we had the tools to investigate. That track record tells us a lot about which side of the argument is reliable. The fifth reason is the vastness of the universe. For most of human history, people thought Earth was the center of everything, crafted for us. But now we know we live on a small rock orbiting a star, one among billions in a galaxy, which itself is one of trillions. The universe is almost incomprehensibly vast and indifferent to our existence. If a God created all of this, why make it so mind-numbingly enormous and inhospitable, with 99.9999% of it being empty space and lethal environments? That picture looks nothing like a carefully designed home for humans. It looks like what it is, a natural, indifferent universe where life just happened to emerge in one tiny corner. That's only the beginning. There are many more reasons, each one chipping away at the idea of a divine being. The sixth reason is morality. People often argue that morality proves God, since without him there would be no foundation for right and wrong. But when you look carefully, morality doesn't need a divine lawgiver. Our sense of fairness, empathy, and justice comes from being social creatures who evolved to live together. We can observe similar behavior in primates, elephants, and even dolphins, animals who show compassion, cooperation, and grief without any belief in God. Human morality changes over time, too. Slavery was once defended by religious texts, yet today we recognize it as immoral. If morality really came from a perfect being, it wouldn't shift with culture. What makes far more sense is that morality is a product of human minds and societies, not divine command. Seventh, prayer simply doesn't work the way it should if there were a God listening. People pray for healing, safety, or guidance, yet the outcomes are indistinguishable from chance. Controlled studies on prayer have shown no measurable effect beyond placebo. If prayer worked, hospitals would be empty, and wars could be stopped overnight by enough people praying. Instead, when prayers go unanswered, People are told God works in mysterious ways. That explanation covers every possible outcome, which is another way of saying it explains nothing at all. The eighth reason is the diversity of religions themselves. If one true God existed, why are there thousands of religions across the world, each with different beliefs, gods, and rituals? People are convinced their religion is the right one, yet geography is the biggest predictor of which faith you'll follow. A child born in India is likely to be Hindu, a child in Saudi Arabia Muslim, and a child in Italy Catholic. That pattern strongly suggests religions are cultural traditions, not universal truths. If God were real, we'd expect something much more consistent and global instead of this patchwork of conflicting faiths. The ninth reason is the human brain itself. Neuroscience shows that religious experiences, visions, feelings of presence, moments of transcendence, can be triggered by brain activity. Temporal lobe epilepsy, psychedelic drugs, and even magnetic stimulation can produce sensations people interpret as divine. These experiences feel real, but they're products of the mind, not evidence of another realm. If people across cultures report different gods from the same types of brain events, that's a strong clue these are psychological phenomena, not external beings revealing themselves. Finally, the 10th reason, the sheer lack of necessity. God is an explanation people reach for when they don't know the answer. But as our knowledge grows, we see that we don't need that explanation at all. The universe can be explained through natural processes, cosmology, physics, biology, and psychology, without invoking a supernatural being. Every time someone says, "But how could this happen without God?" the honest answer is we don't know yet. But we don't know doesn't mean God did it. It just means more to learn. Taken together, these reasons make a compelling case. God isn't needed to explain the universe, morality, or human experience. What's more, the idea of God is weighed down with contradictions, failures, and silence. And when you remove God from the equation, the world actually makes more sense. But let's not stop here. Each of these reasons deserves a closer look, because they reveal deeper insights into why humanity created gods in the first place, and why the idea continues to linger, even in the face of overwhelming doubt.